This is episode 26, Bringing It All Together. So, as promised, this final video aims to show you how we can look at a piece of writing and identify and label the different word classes and phrasal classes. I'm going to speak through the process of doing just that, and I'll be using an excerpt from Roger Hargreaves' Mr. Nonsense, which tells us a little bit of the friendship between Mr. Silly and Mr. Nonsense. So here's the quote here, the passage. So, Mr. Silly and Mr. Nonsense were close friends and saw a lot of each other. Mr. Nonsense was often round at Mr. Silly's house playing jigsaw puzzles. They used to throw the pieces at each other. How silly. So now I'm just going to go and talk through the passage and label all the bits and pieces, and hopefully that will be of some help by bringing it all together like that. Let's begin. So I'm going to use orange for the word classes, and I'm going to use pink for the phrasal classes. Here we go. So Mr. Silly, I'm just going to put that together as a proper noun because I just write noun here, but you know that it's a proper noun because it's the name of something, and that means that Mr. Nonsense is also a proper noun. I'm just going to put noun there, hopefully you can see that N clearly. And then and is a conjunction because it's joining Mr. Silly and Mr. Nonsense together. So all of those words together, because the nouns are the main things, so that's a noun phrase, so NP for noun phrase, okay? Were, that's a verb, and that's a lexical verb. Close friends, okay, so close is describing friends. Friends takes a plural, that's definitely a noun. Close is describing that, that's an adjective, comes before. So close friends is a noun phrase as well. Oops, noun phrase. And is there as our conjunction, compound conjunction, we'll look at that soon. Saw, that's a verb, it's a lexical verb, there's no other verbs around it. A lot. I wonder what lot is, that's a bit confusing, isn't it? But I know that for sure is a determiner, so I'll make that determiner. And I know if I see what comes after lot of, well, that's definitely not a noun, so lot has to be a noun because of course determiners come before nouns. So lot in this instance is going to be a noun, which means that determiner noun, that's going to be a noun phrase just there. And then we've got of each other. So of is a preposition, and each other, well, we know that a prepositional phrase or a preposition precedes a noun phrase, which means that theoretically speaking, each other should be a noun phrase. And I think in this instance it is. I think each is the adjective and other is the noun. So each other is a noun phrase. Let's put that there. Noun phrase. Of each other is our prepositional phrase. So let's put that there. Okay, so as we know, Mr. Nonsense is a proper noun. So let's just make that a noun. That's the name of Mr. Nonsense. And was, now this is a noun phrase as well, just even though I haven't put noun phrase down the bottom because it's just the one noun. Noun phrases can be just one word. Any phrases can be just one word, but just for the sake of this video, I will only underline it when there's more than one word so you can see how words come together. But a noun is also a noun phrase, okay? So then we have was. Now that's a verb. What kind of verb is it? Well, there's no other verbs around it, so we'll call that a lexical verb. Often, round. Okay, this round is an interesting one, and I'm going to mark it as an adverb. And the reason why I'm going to mark it as an adverb is because it's describing where someone is, and often is modifying round, so it's a modifier. An adverb is the modifier is a type of adverb, so that means that often round is actually an adverb phrase. So let's write that down, adverb phrase, and we'll keep on going. At is another preposition, and as we know, a preposition is followed by a noun phrase, and in this situation we have Mr. Silly's house. There's the noun phrase there. This apostrophe S, as we learned, is a kind of determiner, a possessive determiner. Mr. Silly is the proper noun here, so it's a noun, a proper noun, and house is also a noun. And that whole thing, Mr. Silly's house, is our noun phrase. Well, Mr. Silly is also a noun phrase and all that kind of stuff, but we'll make this Mr. Silly's house a noun phrase. And then of course the prepositional phrase is at Mr. Silly's house. And that's our prepositional phrase. Okay, we have playing. Now that's a verb, it's a lexical verb. What are they playing? Jigsaw puzzles. Now this is an interesting one because puzzles is definitely a noun, but the question is, what is jigsaw? Well, we can have one jigsaw, two jigsaws, can't we? Or a jigsaw, the jigsaw. So in every situation, if we want to look at it, jigsaw is actually a noun as well. So here's an example of not an adjective, but a noun modifier that's modifying the noun. So this is a noun phrase with a noun modifier and a noun. Let's put that there. So it's a noun phrase. All right, down here we go. They, well, there you go. There's our first pronoun. They, meaning Mr. Silly and Mr. Nonsense. Used to throw. Look at all those verbs there. Now, used to is a complex verb made of two parts, and that's our auxiliary, and throw is our main lexical verb there, but the whole lot together making a verb phrase here. Verb phrase. And the pieces. So here we go. I think we're becoming quite good at this, aren't we? Determiner for the. Pieces is noun, which of course makes a noun phrase. And at each other, well, we've done each other once before already. So each is an adjective, other is a noun, and at is your preposition, which of course means that each other is our noun phrase. And at each other, let's lift up a little bit, at each other is our prepositional phrase. And then finally we have how silly. Now just for ease of looking at just word classes at this point, we haven't got into sentence and sentence structures, I'm going to put how silly down as an interjection and as a complex interjection, so made up of two parts, 1, 2. So there's our complex interjection. All right, so that's my analysis of the passage. It's definitely not easy to identify the different word classes and phrase classes in a passage of writing. There is ambiguity and uncertainty. You have to run through those semantic and morphological and syntactic rules if you're not certain of how things go, and even then it's not always 100% clear. There's always ambiguities. So you can see why there's so much discussion about classifying language, particularly when the language is informal vernacular. I mean, there is such an element of creativity to language that to scientifically categorize it is always going to be open to some challenges. But this is the best that we've got with the tools that we have. And hopefully you're in a situation where perhaps you can do the same thing as well. All right, now, in addition to the form of the word or the word class, which is what we've been studying all this time, we also need to know the word's function. Okay? And the function is telling us kind of what the word is used for. It tells us what the different sections of the sentence actually do. So once you've developed some confidence in identifying the word classes and phrasal classes, hopefully there'll be some practice exercises up on the website at some point, thelanguagecode.com. Anyway, you'll be ready to push on further, and this time start exploring the function that these words and phrases play in a sentence. So until then, happy practicing, and thank you for watching The Language Code.